facing sonar the way you do, kind of use it to verify things, kind of watch fish activity, as opposed to pinpointing fish. There's there's a lot of good information there to unpack. Let's talk a little bit. I can see it up on your screen. We talked about it earlier. Let's talk a little bit about finding underwater currents. Let's talk about trolling speed. I know it's become a much bigger deal with me over the last 5, 6, 8, 10 years. Um, if you are trolling at all, I don't care where you are trolling. If you've got lures in the water and you're trolling, knowing what's happening at your bait is key. So I want you to take a few minutes, talk about the new product that Scotty has. I can see it up there both on your phone and on your Laurentian. Talk a little bit about this Seeker product that really got me excited when I saw you guys at the Grand Rapids show. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Talk a little bit about that new Seeker product that Scotty's got.
Yeah, so the Seeker is basically another probe that we can run under the boat, just check current depths at speed, obviously temperature. There's a number of things that can do. Just I want to show you, just because I set it up. This is one of the things that we have to answer constantly when we're at shows or talking to people, because they'll see the package with it on a phone or an iPad, or they'll see it on the screen. And they don't understand that it's both. You can do both. So I've only kind of set it up today just to demonstrate. This is on demo mode. It's just kind of deleting or adding demo data, but it also shows that it's running on the phone at the same time. So in my boat, I've got 5 screens. I've got one in the back that I can watch. I've got 2 on the dash. I usually leave one on a probe. And if I really want to, I can play it at the front if somebody wants to go up there and sit and watch it. But when we first started talking about this product, they asked me, what would I like to see when it came to developing this new product? I said, I'd really like to see it network to the graphs, because as much as I enjoy having an extra screen at the back for the last number of years, it'd be nice when I've got a client or a customer or a friend sitting in the middle of the screen that I can't see it, that I can see it from anywhere. And so now I can turn any direction of my boat and see it. And yes, I can see it on my phone. I don't use it on the phone as much as the screens, because I do have multiple screens, but I feel that that's a very important thing that people need to understand, that you can play it anywhere. And you can actually split screen it as well. So if you went down to a split screen, you could do a map. Hopefully it doesn't show up where I was the other day. We'll just go to this lake.
But just had a heart attack.
I know, because he was near me. So yeah, so you can run it on a split screen. You can do multiple screens. You can flip between probes on that split screen. One of the other screens I'll do 2 probes with the sonar at the bottom. So I'm watching the probe the entire time, or watching the sonar and the 2 probes the entire time. And then I typically leave one screen on a map at all times, obviously zoomed in more than that. But that's the benefit that I like best about this. It comes with the availability that you can run multiple graphs. So I've been running 2 probes recently, because I'm trying to see if there's any difference in depth based on even 10 feet of water. So if I'm running one 15 feet below the boat, I want to know if that's different than one running 35 feet below the boat. And yes, I am seeing major changes. So that tells me that lure running at the top is either running faster or slower based on the current speed higher in the column. Just a good example, I do a lot of fishing off of Long Point, which is central Erie. And basically, when it comes around the end of the point, the current's funnel. So when you pass through that current, or that funnel of current, you'll change your speed about 4 times trying to figure out what speed your lures want to run. And we run a lot of lead core there, long colors of lead, spoons, everything else. And, we may need to change 3 mile an hour on the kicker speed just to keep the lure at the speed we want them to. So having 2 probes available this year will make a big difference in trying to make sure that all the baits are running at the proper speed, or depth, more importantly. So that's some of the big parts that I like about it. I'll just show you quickly here. I just happen to have an extra an extra box here, but this is all you need to mount in your box. So I've got this mounted under the back of my boat in front of the motor. It networks up through a Cat 5 Ethernet cable to the back of your graph. It will work on Garmin, Lowrance, Raymarine, any of those as for now. But that's pretty much all you have to add. And then I'll put it here somewhere. And then we're running, basically it looks like a TM165, if you've ever mounted a TM165 in the back of your boat. So this is not a transducer like other probe systems. So if you get a lot of blowback from speeds, because I like to run smaller cannonballs when I'm running shallower water, and if I speed up and I get a lot of blowback, you'll lose that on a transducer. But because this is a hydrophone, it's a speaker listening for a signal. So it doesn't matter where you put it on the boat; it's constantly listening for information. So the rumor that I was told by the guys that helped develop this is this was actually something that's been in service for about 30 years for fishing off of, out in the deep ocean when they're sending their nets down to drag the bottom. So it's not a new system. It's just something that they've made available for us recreational fishermen. So again, it's a speaker listening for a signal. And we did some testing when we shot the commercial that we actually just put a probe on a flat line and just let it float straight back 300 feet. And we were still able to pick up signal when it was just flatlining back, however depth it ended up. So that's a big deal because not everybody wants to run a 20-pound cannonball when they're walleye fishing. Yes, the salmon guys are going to do it each and every time, but with the tournaments, I'm running a manual downrigger. I'm running a small cannonball. I'm putting the probe down 15 or 20 feet. I don't leave it down all day. I usually just put it down while I'm, figuring out that current in that area, and then I'll pull it back up if I'm making changes or picking up and running back uphill. So that's a couple of the big components that are, different from the previous probes that we've used in the past. Obviously, it comes with a wireless charger. So a couple of the other things it comes with. And
what kind of information? What information am I getting back from that probe?
So let's pull up and down. So you're getting your water temperature, you're getting your speed of the probe, and you're getting your depth of the probe, and you're getting your speed of the probe. Those are the three things. Now, that question came up a lot. Do we need ball speed on this unit? Because 90% of the people that I fish with, they're using speed over ground, and most of the time they're just looking at ball speed. So we decided, let's keep it simple. Let's make it what everybody wants to see, and then we can get more information on the screen easier. So less complicated, more detail. It does have a wheel on it for the ball speed, so I didn't show you guys that, and obviously the breakaway cable is important that comes with. So that's the information that it comes with. There is another feature that it comes with that if you're doing some deep water fishing, basically it's called thermocline mode, where you can not shut it off, but it will pick up the change in temperature every second as it's deploying. So if you drop it with a normal downrigger, it will pick up speed every 1 second. So it won't give you obviously the depth, and it won't give you the speed of the ball because it's obviously dropping too fast, but it'll give you temperature as it's dropping up to 1 second. So that's a really important thing that we need to look at a little bit more when we get into some deeper water. I fish a lot of deep water in the middle of summer. I'm fishing 90 feet down over 120 feet of water. I know I'm going to be looking for a thermocline because not every day you can find a thermocline with a sonar.
So as you're dropping that probe, it's sending back every second a new water temperature instead of having to put the probe down 40 feet and then get a temperature, then drop it to 42. Instead of trying to manually find the thermocline, as I'm dropping that seeker down, it's giving me every second an updated temperature.
Correct. And then when we talk about obviously speed of when it sends a signal back, normally when you're dropping it down or you're watching it throughout the day, it will send a signal every 3 to 5 seconds. So it's pretty quick return just with all the information. But if you put it into thermocline mode, it will send a signal update every 1 second. So that's going to be really fun to play with as we get closer to the deeper water. So
yeah, that's kind of a neat little feature because now, typically you set it down where you think the thermocline is and you kind of slowly drop the probe down and try to find that break, but being able to find it fairly quickly and then kind of zero in on that's a cool little feature.
Yeah.
And you're running 2 probes. So if you got 2 probes in the water, do I need 2 receivers or can each one of those probes send back a different frequency and one receiver can separate those 2 probes?
So you only need 1 hydrophone for up to 4 receivers or 4 probes. So will anybody use 4 probes at this point? I was on a salmon boat last week pre-fishing for the King of the Lakes tournament, and they were running 3 riggers every day, so at all different depths. So I could see those guys trying it for sure. Will make a big difference for us fishing 30 or 40 or 60 feet of water in the first few months of the year. I don't think so, but I'm definitely going to play with it as the season moves on here.
Yeah, I think it's important that guys understand. We talk about current a lot here, right? And and kind of how to, read your boards and just kind of how to see what's going on. And we've been preaching products like this for a while. Um, but I think it's important for guys to understand, even in shallow water, 20, 30 feet of water, you may have a current going one speed in one direction at 10, 12 feet. You may have a second current going a different direction, different speed at 27, 28 feet. So it's not uncommon, especially where you fish, right? You start to get the funnel through the Bass Islands. You start to get that funnel around Pelee Island, and you got a lot of reef there. You get a lot of current kind of funneling in, funneling out. Plus, now you add some strong wind to it. It completely changes the dynamics of what's going on below the water, and you have to know what's going on to get your baits right.
I've seen it where the wind's blowing 4 mile an hour one way and the current's going 4 mile an hour the opposite way. Just think of what that's doing to your lure. It's unreal. So
Some people wonder why they can't catch anything because they don't know that.
Yeah, your lure is literally laying dead in the water. It's not swimming at all. So, or it's screaming.
Or it's screaming, right? Hey, it can't keep up, or it's just kind of sitting there going. Looks like just a log sitting there with some hooks on it, right? So that definitely is a big, 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 big deal in that. So how do you normally run that Seeker product? Are you putting it on a rod? Are you putting it on kind of how are you getting that Seeker down to depth?
Okay. So typically during the midsummer months, I'm running a normal 2116 Scotty electric downrigger because I'm putting, an 8 to 10, 12-pound cannonball on there. And I do play around on Lake Ontario. So obviously, if you want to run a 20-pound cannonball, you have to run the high-speed downriggers. But for this time of year, and especially with the tournaments, I've actually got a couple of these manual downriggers. Now, everyone kind of looks at you funny when you say manual. It's like, you know what? We're only running 20 feet down, and we're only putting it down once or twice or 4 times a day to check speed on current. So these little manual riggers are great. Like literally, you release the handle just by turning, and as soon as you turn back, it automatically locks. So this is actually a little bit overkill, but I got a couple little cannonballs made specifically for my boat, just so that these will fit better on my downriggers. And a local Canadian company makes them for me, and they paint them the color I want just to show off. But we did learn just by watching a few tournaments last year that guys were running extra rods with probes on them, in different events, whether it's salmon or muskie or anything else. And there's a lot of question comes up. It's like, what is that extra rod doing? And everyone's like, oh, it's just a probe. It's just a probe. It's like, really? Is it honestly? And then there's questions around, is it really an extra rod or is it a probe rod? So when I talked to Scotty this year and they said, hey, what can we do to, kind of introduce this to the west end of the lake? I said, let's make sure that we're, talking about the manual downriggers because not everybody wants to put a big electric on their boat. And this literally fits in any of the compartments on my Ranger. It's very lightweight. It'll actually fit in a 5-gallon pail. And I've got 2 of them. So it doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't take up a lot of weight, and it's quick to set it up and down. So it makes it easier for guys to explore with probes, versus committing to a big downrigger. So that's how I've been running it the last 3 or 4 weeks with my probes.
And I think that's a big deal, right? Because we ran into it in one of the Michigan Walleye Tour events. A team had 7 rods in the water. They had 6 lures, which is legal. In the Michigan Walleye Tour, they had 6 lures in the water. They had another rod that supposedly was running a probe. But like you said, now how do you police that, right? Is it really running a probe? Is it a probe with something? Not accusing anybody of cheating at all. Because I don't think.
But I used to do it. I used to have an old rod that I just didn't put the second port on, run some 200-pound braid off it, and I started questioning, going, I probably shouldn't.
But that downrigger obviously makes it pretty obvious, especially if there's not a rod attached to it. But as we start to move from, let's call it where the Western Basin kind of transitions, here in Ohio, the east side of Pelee, as we start to transition to fishing some of those areas, or even, around the bottom of the funnel, the top part of Lake St. Clair River, when you're in Lexington, you're in those areas, maybe you're doing a little coho fishing, maybe a little deep water walleye fishing, maybe at the top of Port Huron, right? Downriggers can be a good way to add an extra rod, get precise depth control, and get a rod out of the way, right? You can run that rod down. It's down. It's going straight down. It's out of the way. You can fish over top of it. I think we're going to see a lot more downriggers every year as walleye anglers realize, number one, how versatile they are. Number two, how exact your depth control can be. And now you got a product like this. No reason for a guy not to have a couple of those little manual downriggers and start adding them into their spread.
Absolutely. About 10 years ago, I remember hearing you talk about, I think it was on Walleye 101 back then, and you were talking about, running tadpoles, Magnum tadpoles
Yep.
off the corner of the boat.
Yep.
And I still do it occasionally just to get down to depth. And, it's a different presentation. The rigger's a different presentation. But one of the tips that I'll throw out there that I don't do for the walleye tournaments, but I do as normal fun fishing throughout the summer, is I'll put a 3-color lead on a cannonball, and it will, just drag it across the bottom. You'll see what comes off the bottom. You'll be impressed. So don't be afraid to experiment with different presentations.
And again, one of the things that I've learned every year as a charter guy, Doug Ward, pay attention, is efficiency, right? If I can run 2 colors of lead and a cannonball down 40 feet to get down to 65 feet of water, that's a whole lot better than 9 colors of lead, right? That's a whole lot better than a lure and a 4-ounce snap weight, right? So as you start to shorten these leaders, using a downrigger makes a big difference. Now we can run short lines, get them in and out faster, be much more efficient getting them up and down than we are letting a whole bunch of line out or putting on big heavy weights and all the other stuff that goes with it. So how heavy of a weight can you handle on that manual downrigger?
I think these 8-pounders are probably, I wouldn't say max, but definitely my comfort zone. So again, okay. these are just pow casting ones. He's a local guy here. That's the smallest in that style that he makes. He makes 4s and 6s. I had a nice little 4-pound Cannon round ball that I was fishing Quinny, and we were basically pushing the limit a little bit to the snowstorm that was coming, and I took off with it down. And well, I tell you, that breakaway works when you take off with a cannonball down. So I lost my little 4. Yeah, I lost my little 4-pounder, but that's what we're.
So you're running an 8-pounder, right? So even in shallow water, that gets you down fairly quickly. And again, I think the big thing is that keeps it out of the way, right? That probe's in the water. You got that down there. It's not going to mess up your fishing at all because it is out of the way. You're not running a whole bunch of line back there with a lighter weight. So, like that. Roy asked a question. Do you think this will interfere with the forward-facing sonar on the back of his boat? So he's asking basically about frequency, but if it's a hydrophone, obviously it's not really working that way.
Right. And so again, that's why I wanted to, where we put it, that's why I wanted to show everybody, because if you open a package, this is something that we're learning because there's a bunch of these being sold here in Ontario and in Michigan right now, is you're going to see a TM165 or a P66 transducer body, and everyone says, oh, frequency. Well, yes, it's not the same frequency. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that. But the other thing is, when you open that package up, you're going to see the Airmar packaging, because Scotty and Airmar joined together to make this product, and you're going to see the original packaging from the P66 and the TM165 information sheet in there. So just remember, you don't have to be as precise, because with my boat, I've actually got it mounted on a jack plate. My buddy from Rytech Marine made me a nice little jack plate mount, and it goes way up beside my motor. I don't have to drill another hole in my boat, and it works perfectly fine. So I actually, during the testing, I just had a zip tied to the back of my ladder on my boat, and it worked fine. So as long as you get away from that kicker wash, it works fine.
So obviously, what powers the box? What powers the brain? Is that a 12-volt power?
Yes, it is a 12-volt power. It pretty much looks like the same power source. I'm not going to say it is because I'm guessing here, but it looks almost identical to the plug that goes in. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So that's the power wire. And if you look at a NEMA 2000 power wire, it's almost identical.
Same thing.
So it's the exact same 4-pin. And then obviously just red and black. So switching it, putting on an auxiliary switch, I think is important. Mine's actually just hooked to my battery switch because I'm using it all the time. I don't worry about it right now, but I probably will put it on an external switch, because if I'm going to go jig the river for 4 hours, I don't need it on running, drawing the battery down. No, I don't think it draws a lot of battery. I haven't looked that up yet, but I haven't had any problems with leaving it on all day at this point. So, because there are times when I'm playing with it, don't want to use it.
So with that thing being a hydrophone as opposed to a transducer, and that box being obviously a really small, compact 12-volt box, it wouldn't be hard to rig this up as a portable thing that you could take from boat to boat. The same
this is why I have a spare one.
Yeah.
So, so one of my things, I've been helping Scotty and Airmar for the last couple of years and talking about this and everything else. I says, you know what? I spend a lot of time on different people's boats. Somebody calls me up and say, hey, listen, I need my Lowrance tuned up or updated or something else. My favorite answer is take me fishing, because I'm not going to drive all the way to the lake, help you for 5 minutes, and drive home. Let's go fishing, and I'll make it right. So I thought, why not do the same thing with the Scotty Seeker? So I'm going to try and find a shuttle system that I can put a small lithium battery in it, mount it on the back, just like a lot of the ice fishing guys are doing. I've already got a shuttle that I'm doing this with a second active target now. So if I can get a hold of another one, then I can go from boat to boat or loan it out and just show people. As soon as we can find a way to pole mount it off the side of the boat, there's no reason why I can't drive to Toronto, get on a salmon boat, and prove it one day.
Yeah. There's no reason you can't use an inexpensive pole system for forward-facing sonar to rig that up there, because again, not being a transducer, it's really not that important that it's back at a certain spot and has access. We're picking up a different signal. That's a big deal. That's a big deal that's not a regular transducer. We have to really worry about it being dialed in and being completely level and all that other stuff we have to worry about when mounting a transducer. This gives you a little more flexibility.
Absolutely. Less holes in the boat.
Ain't that the truth? All right, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about some of the steelhead fishing on the North